Okay, this says an error occurred.
I have live. Hello. Happy Friday. It's a beautiful
Ah,
day.
okay.
It's
So it
not.
took us a minute to go. We went live, I think, on your page and not on this one.
Uh,
Hi,
well, hi again.
is the market going to crash? We're going to tell you right now, sort of.
I'm Danielle Tully.
And I'm Ruth Sheehan with eXp Realty. And we're putting the real in real estate.
Absolutely.
So,
And it
so
can't get
today's
any
topic
more.
is everybody. What's dinging? Are you
I
dinging?
don't know. Your
Sorry, today's topic
delayed.
is everyone running around like Henny Penny, saying that the market's going to crash. And, we're not saying that it's impossible, but as the magic 8 ball would say, my sources say no. And all of the talk and all of the clickbait headlines and all of the people trying to get ahead of it this time who didn't call it last time, and all of the people who are trying to be smarter than everyone else are, that's dangerous. And we want to talk a little bit about what the facts are. And if you are sitting on the sidelines, either thinking of buying or selling, and you're concerned about the news that you're hearing, we want to put a little bit of perspective in there. And again, we say this every single time, we're never going to try to predict the future. However, everybody can just calm down for a minute, because nothing indicates that we are in a housing bubble or headed for a housing crash.
And we have the receipts to prove it, which is why I wanted to do this again, because it's kind of a market report, but it's going to what people are worried about. And so, what's better? Of course, it's still a couple weeks behind. But what we want to show you is that even at a couple months behind, we're still not, we're not seeing any type of curve right now. We're still
And
seeing steady.
There's a lot of factors that went into that contributed to the last crash. People like to look at one thing and say, oh, this is what happened back then. There were a lot of things happening both behind the scenes and in front of it. So we're going to look at a couple of those different factors today.
Okay.
And as Danielle said, this might be a few weeks ago, but we can only ever really look in the rearview mirror to talk about facts, and anything looking forward is a guess. So if anyone says to you that they know what's going to happen, run in the other direction, because they don't.
Right. So here we're going to start with, okay. We'll start with, hopefully that is clear for everyone to see. But this is the market of month supply. So we've talked about month supply in the past as far as indicator of what is a seller's market, a neutral market, and a buyer's market. So when we started, I would say the beginning of what everybody didn't realize was going to be the start of a really, really robust seller's market, we were at, depending on the area, so the overall Chicagoland area was at 4.1 month supply, which means if it would take 4 months for every house that was currently on the market to sell, and this is March of 2020. We have Kendall County and Plano. They were in the 3 to 3.5 month range, and Naperville was at 4, closer to the overall Chicagoland area range. That was March 2020. So now we are looking, and you could just see these numbers go down, 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 down. Now we're looking at the end of April of 2022. So just a couple weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, the entire MLS, the month supply is 1.7 months. So less than 2 months. Plano is under a month, means that everything that's on the market today will be under contract within the next month. Obviously, there's outliers, but this is statistically, averaged.
That's not just a seller's market. That is a severe seller's market. That is a drought.
Yes, I was just going to say the same word.
Home inventory.
Drought. Kendall County as a whole and Naperville are at just a smidge over Plano at 1. So we're talking within a couple days. So all of that is, everybody is still, and I guess we could say that Plano went from 0.8 to 0.9. So that's a couple days.
So you'll hear the sensational headlines saying housing inventory has increased. We're, suddenly we're overloaded with houses to sell. It went from almost nothing to just a little bit more than nothing.
Right. And I'm saying that was in November. So we still have had 4 or 5 months straight of 0.9. So still under that month mark. I also want to talk about homes for sale. So let's get rid of this one because, price per square. No. Sales price I want to talk about. Because, I'll figure it out. We will go back to sales price, but the average time on market. So that again goes hand in hand kind of with this month supply. As you can see, 2020, we kind of got our peak and then went all the way, started going back down again to where days on market have fallen by over 50% for Kendall, Naperville, and Plano. So when days on market and that's 50% from 3 years ago. That's not even 50, that's more than 50% from our kind of peak, the longest time in the last 3 years. It's even higher. So days on market is also an indicator of people willing to buy and sellers being successful at that. The last thing I want to talk about is because when you do hear these people, they're usually talking about national. They're nationally, I know there's a big firm out there right now who's saying we are at the beginning of the end, kind of. And, I feel like that might be the case for some very, very popular areas that over the last couple of years have seen a lot of people move to. So you've got the Tennessee areas and you got the Floridas and you got, some of those nicer areas as far as weather, in my opinion, compared to the cold of here. But they've also seen sometimes 400-500% increases. Houses that 10 years ago were selling for $300,000 are now $900,000. Depending on the area, that's a 300% increase. We are not seeing that here. Our prices have been steadily increasing. So this is the last 3 years. So we've seen some houses, go up, but this is higher than this. But this is a pretty nice, steady increase. We haven't gotten crazy.
Yeah.
We haven't doubled the prices
would normally expect. But
pardon me?
There's like a glitch here. We're not hearing each other at the right time.
Oh no.
Audience, if we're talking over each other, sometimes we go not at that rate, but that's a far cry from crashing. Now it looks like I'm back.
Hopefully.
Just on my side.
I think you are. I'm hearing you much better.
Okay.
So I don't know if.
So was I frozen?
Overall. You weren't frozen, but you were very, very delayed with what I was hearing.
So you were frozen for me for a while.
Oh no! All right. Well, let's see what.
Go back and
technical.
Or if somebody wants to comment.
Doing this for a year and a half. For doing this for a year and a half, this was our first major hit.
Yeah.
So
if somebody can comment on what they're seeing on their end and how that looked. Hopefully we didn't have
Going
too
about-
much dead air. But what I was saying, Danielle, was we have had a relatively steady increase with a pretty big increase over the past 2 years. But there was a long time when it was, flatter. So that's not out of the ordinary to have a spike. I would not expect that to continue at whatever it was, 20% in the future necessarily. But that is a far cry from a crash. And as you say, other areas might see more of a correction than we see here because they should.
Correct. And I don't even think this is a peak. This is to say that Kendall County is seeing 15.4% increase in average median. This is median, which I've got to say is much more accurate in these type of statistics. Has seen a 15% increase over 3 years. That's 5% a year. I don't think that's outrageous.
That's not.
That I think is a really healthy gain. I think that people just aren't, it was a very hard, whatever, 10 years, however that, 5 to 10 years of market. And so, people get worried because that was what was happening, ramping up before. But these numbers are not outrageous. I don't think.
And there's certain places where you see a bigger bump for a short time than others, and something might lag behind that, and we'll see a spike in that area, this coming year. But all of this is still within relatively normal patterns.
Yeah. And I guess this is just my way of saying I'm not seeing, we might see a couple more days on market. We might start seeing, but as of right now, nothing has started to go over a hump or, under a dip.
The other question a lot of people have is, what about foreclosures? Is there this shadow inventory that existed for a long time? We don't think so. So most people are in a really good equity position in their home right now. So and we've done a couple of shows about this, if they are struggling, they should reach out to a realtor and see if they can sell ahead of the consequences coming. Most likely you can. And so most people are doing that. People who got forbearances, for the most part, the vast majority of those have already been resolved, whether they were worked out a payment or they simply paid it off as soon as the immediate danger seemed over. A lot of people took a forbearance just to make sure that they weren't going to be in trouble down the road. Nobody knew what was coming at the beginning of 2020.
Absolutely.
So that does not look like, in most cases, in most areas, it's going to be a big impact in the market. And then just looking at foreclosure inventory overall, hold on one second. I'm going to share my screen here. Looking at foreclosure activity, it's at an all-time low. So in 2005, when most of us were not aware of anything out of the ordinary happening in the market, there were 533,000 foreclosures. In 2022, which of course we haven't, gotten even to the halfway mark, there's so far been 78,000. There were 151,000 in 2021, far fewer than there were long before the crash.
Well, even if we take that number, even if we take the 78 and assume that that's going to kind of hold steady for the next 3 quarters, we're still, that end number might be higher than 2021, but it's still under the total for 2025 or 2005, where that was a boom market. Yes. That was a market everybody was buying in and having a good time in.
Exactly. And that was a market when we would have considered that a lot of people were in a good equity position. And when foreclosures were relatively unheard of.
Correct.
So it was long before they became commonplace.
So we're still, projecting underneath that mark. Maybe there's more in Q3 or something than Q1, but it still looks good. It's still in the blue opposed to those concerning
Yeah.
red.
So yeah. So even if there's a bump up to what, 250,
Yeah, right.
it's still incredibly low. So we like to look at all of these things. Of course, there's always things that we can't know, don't know. And the reason we keep hammering at this is that consumer confidence is such an important part of the equation. And that's where we get concerned about our colleagues running around the media with sensational headlines and certain sectors of our real estate community wanting to make something bad happen. So don't participate in that. If you're a buyer, there's no reason to sit on the sidelines. It's not going to save you any money, even if prices do come down, because we know how the interest rate relates. Maybe 5 years from now, that's going to be a different story. But do you want to live where you're living for 5 years or not? Let's look at the reality, temper it with some statistics, and
right. And then that's why you give us a call. That's why instead of making your decisions on what you're hearing in the media, you give us a call and we can help you figure out what we're talking Ruth was talking nationwide. I was giving kind of area and county and city or village or whatever.
Yeah, right.
But then it even goes further down. How is your particular neighborhood? What are you offering compared to what everybody else is offering? So it kind of boils down farther and farther. But you don't know until you get an expert in there. And that's what we're trying to say, is that this can be individual needs. You talk it over. Do you need to sell? Do you want to sell? Are you thinking of selling? Would it be nice? Where is your motivation there, and does it make sense with the numbers for selling, the numbers for buying, the numbers for moving, all that stuff? There's a lot to go in individually, but this is just,
it looks like we are probably going to see some sort of a correction. The market got really, 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 really hot. When that happens, it should correct. It's healthy to correct. So if you're a seller who's thinking, maybe in the near future I want to sell, you might want to rethink that. Again, let's chat. We're not calling for anything cataclysmic, but it might affect your future plans if there is a little bit of a correction in the market, and we'd want to get ahead of that as a seller.
Absolutely. So again, going back to the foreclosure thing, though, we want to, if you or somebody it's tight, you might have had a forbearance that's expiring or already expired, you're a little bit behind, now is the time.
Yeah, don't sit and wait.
Please don't lose what could be some money in your pocket.
And your next chapter start.
Yes, it could be rougher than you know. So, and we want to help, and we want to help guide and share our knowledge.
Yeah.
So,
and if you're at all thinking about selling, there are a lot of people who want to buy your house right now.
Absolutely.
So this is your best chance we've seen, just looking backwards, best chance we've seen ever to sell your house.
Absolutely. So until next week.
We're putting the real in real estate. And if you're an agent, we're going to pop over and do our YouTube live on our agent channel. Just search my name and find the For Agents Only channel. And we're going to talk about this from a real estate professional point of view. So see you there.
See you then.